I woke up and my alien roommate was in my bed. What happened next surprised us both. At first, he could not explain what it was. The room felt warmer than usual. The air smelled faintly like metal and citrus, which was not normal for his small apartment on Harmony Station. He kept his eyes closed, hoping the feeling would fade, but instead he became more aware of a gentle, uneven breathing beside him. Daniel's eyes snapped open. His bed was not empty. Very slowly, he turned his head. Lying next to him, curled in an awkward position, was T-Krell. Daniel froze. T-Krell was his roommate. T-Krell was also an alien from the Kyerlian Union, a species with smooth blue-gray skin, 4 dark eyes, and thin ridges along the sides of the head that shifted color with emotion. T-Krell was calm, logical, polite, and extremely careful about personal space. T-Krell was also definitely not supposed to be in Daniel's bed. Daniel's heart began to race. His mind filled with questions all at once. Had he invited T-Krell? No. Had he sleepwalked? Impossible. Had something gone very wrong on the station? Before he could move, one of T-Krell's eyes opened. Then another. Then all 4. For a long moment, both of them stared at each other in complete silence. T-Krell's skin shifted from neutral gray to a bright, alarming shade of violet. "This," T-Krell said slowly, voice shaking, "is not my sleeping platform." Daniel swallowed. "No," he said, "it really is." They both stayed perfectly still, as if sudden movement might make the situation worse. Daniel could hear the quiet hum of the station's life support systems and the soft ticking of the wall clock. Everything else felt unreal. T-Krell was the first to move. Very carefully, they tried to push themselves away, but their long limbs were tangled in the blankets. One elbow bumped Daniel's shoulder by accident. Both of them flinched. "I apologize," T-Krell said quickly. "I did not intend to make contact. I do not recall entering this location." "Same," Daniel said. "I went to sleep alone, I'm pretty sure." They worked together in slow, careful movements, untangling the blankets and creating space between them. T-Krell slid off the bed and stood rigidly beside it, hands clasped in front of their chest in a gesture Daniel had learned meant deep embarrassment. T-Krell's skin had shifted from violet to a pale blue. "This is a serious breach of shared living protocol," T-Krell said. "I assure you, Daniel Mercer, this behavior does not reflect my species' values." Daniel sat up and rubbed his face. His heart was still pounding, but the shock was slowly turning into confusion instead of fear. "I know," he said. "You're like the most careful person I know. That's why this is so weird." T-Krell nodded stiffly. "Then we must determine how this occurred before station authorities become aware." That made Daniel pause. "Before they become aware?" T-Krell hesitated. "Yes, if this incident is misinterpreted, it could be used as evidence that interspecies cohabitation is unstable." Daniel sighed. Of course, the shared housing program was still new. Humans and non-humans living together was supposed to build trust across the galaxy, but many species believed it was a mistake. Any problem, no matter how small, could be used as proof. "Okay," Daniel said. "Let's think, what do you remember?" T-Krell closed their eyes, focusing. "I recall securing myself in my magnetic sleep harness at the correct hour. The station lights dimmed, my heart rate slowed, then nothing until awakening here." Daniel frowned. "Wait, magnetic harness." "Yes, my species does not sleep horizontally. We remain partially upright to maintain neural balance." Daniel looked at the empty wall where T-Krell's sleep harness was mounted. It hung there, unused, the magnetic field still glowing faintly. "And you ended up here," Daniel said. T-Krell's skin shifted again, a darker blue. "Yes, which suggests an external disturbance." Almost on cue, the station intercom chimed. "Attention residents," a calm artificial voice said. "Please be advised that Harmony Station experienced a minor gravitational fluctuation at approximately 300 hours. Systems have been stabilized. We apologize for the inconvenience." Daniel stared at the ceiling. T-Krell's eyes widened. "The gravity," Daniel said slowly. "That's it, isn't it?" T-Krell nodded. "A sudden loss of stable gravity would disengage my harness. In such a state, my nervous system would seek the nearest source of warmth and stability." Daniel blinked. "You sleep migrated." "Yes, into my bed." "Yes." They both stood there processing that. Daniel let out a short laugh before he could stop himself. It wasn't mocking or loud. It was the kind of laugh that came from stress finally finding a way out. T-Krell stiffened. "I understand if you are distressed." No, Daniel said quickly. I mean, yeah, it was surprising, but it was an accident. Tikrel studied him closely. You are not angry. No, you are not offended. No, you are laughing. Yeah, humans do that sometimes when things get awkward. Tikrel seemed deeply confused by this. Before either of them could say more, a sharp knock echoed through the apartment door. Daniel's stomach dropped. That was fast, he muttered. Tikrel's skin shifted toward green, a color Daniel had learned meant fear. Station officials. Daniel took a deep breath. Okay, let me handle this. The door slid open to reveal two station representatives, one human, one tall avian alien from the Rel species. Both held data tablets and wore professional expressions. Daniel Mercer, the human official said. We detected an anomaly in your living unit during the gravity fluctuation. Tikrel straightened. The fault was environmental. I take full responsibility for any perceived misconduct. Daniel stepped forward. There was no misconduct, he said calmly. It was an accident caused by the gravity issue. The officials exchanged a glance. An accident involving shared sleeping space, the Rel official said carefully. Such incidents are considered sensitive. Daniel nodded. I understand, but no one was harmed. No boundaries were crossed on purpose. We talked it through. Tikrel looked at Daniel, surprised. You are defending me, Tikrel said quietly. Of course, Daniel replied. You didn't do anything wrong. The officials took notes. The human one raised an eyebrow. You're certain you're comfortable continuing this housing arrangement? Daniel didn't hesitate. Yes. Tikrel's skin shifted to a soft, warm gray. After a few more questions, the officials left, promising to file a report and review the station's gravity systems. When the door closed, the apartment felt quiet again. Tikrel let out a long, shaky breath. You placed your own standing at risk, Daniel shrugged. That's life, stuff happens. Tikrel looked thoughtful. In my culture, such an incident would require formal separation. Daniel smiled slightly. In mine, it's just a weird story you tell later. Tikrel considered that. Human tolerance for discomfort is unusual, they said. Daniel laughed again. Yeah, we're kind of experts at messing up and moving on. They stood there for a moment, the morning light of the station slowly brightening the room. Neither of them knew it yet, but this strange, awkward accident was about to change how the galaxy saw humans. And it all started with waking up in the wrong bed. At first, it stayed inside Harmony Station's internal systems. A short description, no dramatic language. Just facts about a gravity fluctuation, a shared living unit, and an accidental boundary crossing resolved without conflict. Normally, that kind of report would be ignored. This one was not. By the end of the week, Daniel noticed the looks, not hostile looks, curious ones. Aliens in the corridor paused longer than usual. Humans whispered and smiled. Even the station service drones seemed to linger, their sensors tracking him and Tikrel with unusual focus. Tikrel noticed it too. Daniel Mercer, Tikrel said one evening standing near the food synthesizer, our social visibility has increased by 37%. Daniel looked up from his meal. Is that bad? Tikrel tilted their head. I do not know yet. The next day, Daniel received a message requesting his presence at a mediation chamber. Not a summons, a request. That alone was strange. When he arrived, the chamber was already occupied. There were representatives from 5 species, diplomatic observers, behavioral analysts. One human sociologist. Tikrel stood beside Daniel, posture stiff but composed. The lead mediator spoke gently. We appreciate your willingness to speak with us. Daniel nodded. Sure, I'm still not sure why I'm here. You are here, the mediator said, because your response to an unexpected social violation was unusual. Daniel frowned. I didn't think it was a violation. Several of the aliens reacted to that statement. Subtle color changes, feather shifts, eye focus sharpening. That, the mediator said, is exactly the point. They asked Daniel to describe the incident in his own words. He did, simply, no drama, no blame. He explained the shock, the confusion, the discussion, and how they moved forward. And you did not experience lasting distress, one analyst asked. I was embarrassed, Daniel said. Tikrel was embarrassed, but that was it. No anger, no demand for formal apology or separation. No, it was an accident. The room grew quiet. Tikrel finally spoke. In my culture, such an event would result in immediate reassignment, possibly social penalty. Daniel glanced at them. That sounds exhausting. Tikrel considered that. It often is. The human sociologist leaned forward. Daniel, would you say humans are trained to handle awkward situations? Daniel laughed softly. Trained? No, we just grow up making mistakes. Social ones, big ones, small ones. You either learn how to deal with it or you're miserable forever. One of the non-human representatives spoke. Most species design systems to prevent social failure. Humans don't, Daniel replied. We design ways to survive it. That sentence ended up in the report too. Over the next month, things changed. Requests arrived for human roommates, not just on Harmony Station, but across shared habitats. Humans were assigned to mixed species teams not as leaders or guards, but as something new. Stabilizers. Tikrel watched the shift with growing fascination. Humans are being selected for situations involving tension, they observed one night. Yeah, Daniel said, we're good at being uncomfortable. Tikrel's ridges shifted thoughtfully. You appear comfortable with discomfort. Daniel shrugged. Life's messy. One evening, Tikrel asked a question that caught Daniel off guard. Were you afraid when you woke and saw me? Daniel thought about it. For a second, yeah. Then I realized it didn't make sense. You wouldn't do something like that on purpose. Tikrel looked down. You trusted me? Of course. Tikrel was quiet for a long time. Later that week, the station hosted a cultural forum. Daniel hadn't planned to speak, but somehow he ended up at the center of it. The audience was mixed. Humans, aliens. Some watching through screens from other systems. They asked him why he reacted the way he did. Daniel stood there, nervous now in a different way. I guess because getting mad wouldn't have helped. Tikrel was already upset. Making it worse wouldn't fix anything. An alien voice asked, Is this common among humans? Daniel smiled. Not always. We mess up plenty, but we try, we apologize, we forgive. Sometimes we laugh at ourselves. It's how we keep going. After the forum, Tikrel walked with Daniel through the long, curved corridor overlooking the stars. My species values control, Tikrel said. We avoid errors to preserve harmony. Daniel nodded. We accept errors because harmony breaks sometimes. Tikrel stopped walking. Do humans not fear chaos? Daniel looked out at the stars. We do. We just don't let it stop us from connecting with people. Tikrel's skin shifted to a warm tone Daniel had only seen once before. I believe I understand now, Tikrel said. Humans are resilient not because they are strong, but because they recover. That understanding spread. Policies changed. Housing programs expanded. New guidelines were written not to prevent every mistake, but to manage them. Human consultants were invited to advise on conflict recovery, emotional repair, and social flexibility. Daniel never asked for any of it. He still woke up early, still worked his job maintaining station systems, still argued with Tikrel about optimal room temperature. But sometimes he would notice a group nearby, a human and an alien sitting together after a misunderstanding, talking, laughing, moving on. One night, as Daniel prepared for sleep, Tikrel adjusted their harness more carefully than usual. The gravity systems are stable, Daniel said. You're safe. I know, Tikrel replied, but habits remain. Daniel smiled. Fair. As the lights dimmed, Tikrel spoke softly. Daniel Mercer. Yeah, thank you for not treating me as a problem. Daniel closed his eyes. You were never a problem? The station hummed around them, peaceful and imperfect. Far beyond Harmony Station, the galaxy updated its records. Humans were not defined by their technology, not by their strength, not by their dominance. They were defined by something quieter. When things went wrong, when boundaries blurred and systems failed, humans stayed. They talked, they forgave, they adapted. And because of that, the galaxy learned a simple truth. Humanity did not conquer space. Humanity made space livable. Months passed, and Harmony Station slowly became known for something no one had planned. It was not the size of the station, or its trade routes, or its technology. It was the way people lived together. Daniel did not notice the change all at once. For him, life still felt ordinary. He woke up, went to work, fixed systems, ate meals that never tasted quite like food from Earth, and came home to an apartment that smelled faintly of metal and citrus. But small moments began to add up. He saw a Rel avian arguing with a human engineer in the corridor, voices tense at first. Instead of walking away angry, they stopped, talked longer, and ended up laughing. He saw two species who normally avoided each other sitting side by side in the common area, sharing stories through translation bands. Tikrel noticed everything. Social clustering patterns have shifted, Tikrel said one evening while reviewing data on their tablet. Mixed species interaction has increased by 51%. Daniel glanced over. Is that good? Tikrel's skin shifted to a thoughtful shade. It appears to be comfortable. That word still sounded strange when Tikrel used it. The station council announced a new initiative soon after. Harmony Station would become a model site for interspecies recovery training, not conflict prevention. Recovery, the difference mattered. Daniel was asked to participate again, not as an expert, not as an authority. Just as a human example, at first he resisted. I didn't do anything special, he told the coordinator. I just didn't panic. That, the coordinator replied, is special. So Daniel found himself sitting in rooms with beings from dozens of worlds, talking about awkwardness, misunderstanding, and the strange human habit of admitting fault without collapsing under shame. He explained things simply. Sometimes you mess up, he said. Sometimes someone else does. If you stop seeing that as the end of everything, it's easier to fix. Many listened. Some did not understand. A few were openly skeptical, but some tried. Tikrel watched Daniel speak with a quiet pride they did not fully understand. One night after a long day, Tikrel asked a question that had clearly been forming for a while. Daniel Mercer, they said, do humans ever become tired of being adaptable? Daniel thought about it. Yeah, all the time. Then why continue? Daniel leaned back on the couch and stared at the ceiling. Because stopping hurts more. Tikrel processed that slowly. A new resident moved into the apartment next door not long after. A small, insect-like alien named Hesh, whose species was known for strict routines and extreme discomfort with unpredictability. The first week was difficult. Hesh complained about noise levels, shared hallways, and human eating habits. More than once, Daniel heard raised voices through the wall. One evening, he found Hesh standing outside their door, trembling slightly. I am experiencing system overload, Hesh said. I have violated protocol by expressing dissatisfaction. Daniel opened the door wider. You want to sit down? Hesh hesitated, then nodded. Tikrel observed quietly as Daniel listened. He did not interrupt, he did not correct, he just listened. By the time Hesh left, calmer and breathing evenly, Tikrel felt something shift inside their chest. Later that night, Tikrel spoke softly. You did not solve their problem. No, Daniel said. I just made it less heavy. That is effective, Tikrel replied. News from Harmony Station spread across systems, not as a headline but as a pattern. Other stations began requesting human residents trained in recovery methods. Humans became bridges between cultures that had once kept polite distance. Some species resisted, others embraced it fully. Then something unexpected happened. A delegation arrived from the Kyrlian Union, Tikrel's home. The delegation requested a private meeting with Tikrel and Daniel. Tikrel was tense as they entered the chamber. Their skin color flickered between controlled shades. The lead delegate spoke formally. Tikrel, your conduct has drawn attention. Tikrel lowered their head. I accept responsibility for the incident. The delegate raised a hand. That is not why we are here. They turned to Daniel. Human Daniel Mercer, your influence has altered interspecies metrics. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. I didn't mean to cause trouble. The delegate's eyes softened. You did not, you caused reconsideration. They explained that Kyrlian society had long valued perfection. Errors were hidden, shame was internalized. Harmony was preserved by avoiding risk. But we observe that humans preserve harmony by surviving risk, the delegate said. They turned back to Tikrel. You were not punished, you were trusted. That outcome was unexpected. Tikrel felt something warm and tight in their chest. The delegation requested something even more unexpected. They wanted to integrate human recovery practices into Kyrlian education. Tikrel was stunned. After the meeting, they stood silently beside Daniel in the corridor. You changed my species, Tikrel said quietly. Daniel shook his head. No, you showed them it was possible. Tikrel considered that. We did it together. Life returned to its steady rhythm, but the station felt different now, softer, more forgiving. One night, another gravity fluctuation occurred. This time, alarms rang briefly before systems stabilized. Daniel sat up in bed, heart racing. Tikrel, he called. I am secure, Tikrel replied from across the room, voice calm. Daniel exhaled and lay back down. Later, Tikrel stood quietly at the doorway to Daniel's room. I experienced the instinct again, Tikrel admitted, to seek warmth. Daniel smiled sleepily. And I remained where I was, Daniel nodded. Progress. Tikrel's skin shifted to a gentle content color. Before leaving, Tikrel said, "If I had moved, you would not have been angry." "No," Daniel said, "but I'm glad you felt safe either way." Tikrel paused, then inclined their head. "So am I." Years later, Harmony Station would be cited in textbooks and cultural studies. Not because of technology, not because of power, but because it taught the galaxy something simple. Mistakes did not have to end connections. Awkward moments did not have to become disasters. And humans, with all their flaws and strange habits, had shown everyone how to stay when it would be easier to pull away. Daniel never became famous. He did not want to. But sometimes, when he walked the corridors and saw strangers from different worlds sharing space without fear, he smiled. Because he knew how it all started, with one wrong bed, one calm response. And the quiet strength of choosing understanding over panic. The change did not stop at Harmony Station. That was what surprised everyone the most. Stations across human space and beyond began reporting similar patterns. Mixed crews lasted longer. Arguments ended faster. Cultural misunderstandings still happened, but they no longer caused long damage. Reports described something new, something difficult to measure. Emotional recovery time had improved. Daniel heard about this the way he heard about most big things in his life, by accident. He was repairing a temperature regulator when his supervisor, a calm woman named Reyes, leaned against the wall and said, "You know they're using Harmony Station as a reference now." Daniel tightened a bolt. "For what?" "For how to keep people from tearing each other apart over small things." Daniel snorted softly. "We still argue all the time." "Yes," Reyes said, "but you fix it." Daniel thought about that later while walking home. The corridors were busy. Different species moved together without the careful distance he remembered from his first months on the station. There was noise, laughter, occasional frustration, but no tension hanging in the air. It felt alive. At home, Tikrel was standing near the window watching ships arrive and depart. "You are thinking heavily," Tikrel said. Daniel smiled. "You always know." "Your movements slow when your thoughts deepen," Tikrel replied. Daniel sat down. "Do you ever miss home?" Tikrel paused. "I miss familiarity, but I do not miss the fear of error." Daniel looked at them. "That's a big thing to give up." Tikrel's skin shifted gently. "Humans help me see that perfection is not the same as peace." Soon after, a message arrived that neither of them expected. An interstellar council delegation wanted to visit Harmony Station. Not to investigate, to learn. The station prepared for weeks, meetings, briefings, translations. Daniel was asked, politely but firmly, to attend. "I'm not a diplomat," he protested. "That is precisely why," the coordinator said. The council chamber was large and quiet. Representatives from powerful species filled the seats. Some were old allies, some were known for keeping distance from humans. Daniel felt small. Tikrel stood beside him, calm but alert. The lead counselor spoke. "Harmony Station has shown results that contradict several long-held assumptions." Screens lit up with data, fewer long-term conflicts, higher crew retention, improved mental stability. "Your species," the counselor said, looking at Daniel, "appears uniquely capable of absorbing social failure without collapse." Daniel shifted. "We don't feel special." "That is noted," the counselor replied. They asked questions, many questions. Why did humans not escalate every mistake into a threat? Why did humans apologize even when rules did not demand it? Why did humans forgive without formal resolution? Daniel answered as simply as he could. "Because holding on to anger is tiring," he said. "Because people matter more than being right, because tomorrow still comes even if today is messy." Some representatives looked confused, others looked thoughtful. One asked, "Does this not make humans vulnerable?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Sometimes. But it also makes us hard to break." That phrase spread quickly, hard to break. After the meeting, Tikrel walked beside Daniel in silence. "You spoke truthfully," Tikrel said. "I didn't know how else to," Daniel replied. Weeks passed. More humans were trained as recovery facilitators. Not therapists, not enforcers, just people who knew how to stay calm when things went wrong. Then something unexpected happened again. A conflict erupted on a distant station. Not violent, but serious. Two species with a long history of distrust had clashed over shared resources. Negotiations failed. Tension grew. The council requested help, not soldiers, not judges, humans. Daniel was offered a choice. "You don't have to go," Reyes said. Daniel looked at Tikrel. Tikrel met his gaze. You want to? Daniel nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I do. The station they traveled to felt different from Harmony. Quiet, stiff, people avoided eye contact, silence pressed down like weight. The first meeting went badly. Voices rose, accusations flew. History was dragged into the room like a heavy object no one wanted to touch. Daniel did not interrupt. He waited. When the room finally fell quiet, he spoke. I don't fully understand your history, he said. And I don't need to. I'm not here to decide who's right. I'm here to help you stop hurting each other with old wounds. That confused them. You are not here to judge? One asked. No, Daniel said. I'm here to listen. They talked for hours, then days. Progress was slow. Pain surfaced. Embarrassment, fear of losing face. Daniel stayed calm. He admitted when he didn't know something. He apologized when he misspoke. He laughed at his own mistakes. Slowly, something shifted. They began correcting each other without anger, pausing before reacting, asking questions instead of assuming. When it ended, there was no dramatic moment, no celebration, just quiet agreement. When Daniel returned to Harmony Station, he felt tired in a deep way. Tikrel greeted him at the door. You look worn, Tikrel said. Daniel smiled weakly. Worth it. Tikrel studied him. You carry emotional weight for others. Daniel shrugged. So do you just do it differently. That night the station lights dimmed, and for the first time in a long while Daniel dreamed of Earth, not cities or crowds. Just people sitting together talking through hard things. Years passed. Harmony Station grew. New modules, new species, new problems, but the culture held. Mistakes still happened. Awkward moments still occurred. Boundaries were crossed by accident. Systems failed. And each time people stayed. Daniel grew older, not much older, but enough to feel it in his knees when he stood too fast. Tikrel changed too. Their movements softened. Their skin colors shifted more freely, less controlled. One evening, as they watched ships drift past the window, Tikrel spoke quietly. Our records now list humans as a stabilizing species. Daniel laughed. That's a weird title. It is accurate, Tikrel said. Daniel thought about the first morning, the shock, the confusion. The choice not to panic, he nodded. We're not perfect. Tikrel looked at him. No, you are better than that. Outside, stars stretched endlessly. The galaxy had not become peaceful, but it had become kinder, and that everyone slowly realized was enough to change everything.